Well, we're going to digest the game now further with Linda Gorman, the former Irish international player and manager. Linda, good morning.
Morning.
How are we keeping?
I'm great, thank you.
So enough time has passed now for us to properly, I guess, have a think about how we feel about yesterday morning. But disappointing result considering the bombardment of the Aussie goal that happened late on, and we were hoping and expecting a goal. But all the same, you have to be proud of them.
Well, yesterday morning, had I been asked what would my prediction be, I would not have been able to answer, simply because you really don't know how players are going to play on the day. I like to take about 15-20 minutes to see our people how they're managing on the pitch against their opponent, and how the flow is going and what type of systems they're playing. So, you know, and then yesterday I suppose most people didn't give us much of a chance if you look at the track record of Australia. Having said that, I know they missed Kerr, but having said that, our girls were so committed all over the pitch, and a great indication of that was, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but I thought it was remarkable that the Aussie centre halves were putting the ball straight down the middle to our central defenders, because obviously we were getting no joy on the wings, the flanks, you know, and that was just, it was just wonderful to watch. And as the time was going by and the Aussies weren't, you know, scoring, because we had them really contained in the first third. Excuse me. My only disappointment was that we left, I thought, and it's not a criticism, it's just an observation, because, you know, football is a matter of opinion. I would have loved to see us push players forward a little sooner, because once that happened, Katie McCabe pushed up. We actually bombarded them. You know, absolutely bombarded them.
And Katie is dangerous in front of goal.
Passionate.
We were only talking about it if we just had her that bit closer.
Fearless, you know. And not only herself, the other players, because what happens is that if you see somebody doing it, you'll do it. So it sort of runs right across the whole team, particularly up front, because we were desperate to score a goal. The corners, I was slightly disappointed in terms of where they were aimed for. Like, the keeper got a couple of them. You try to probably put it in anywhere between the penalty box and the 6 yard, so that you sort of try to commit the goalkeeper, and you know the goalkeeper's not going to get off the line. But if you have the likes of Louise Quinn up there, she'll absolutely,
her strength and her height,
and she's fearless as well. She doesn't care what's in front of her.
We were talking about it this morning, Linda, but Amber Barrett not coming off the bench, like, I thought it was bizarre, and we were saying this morning that, like, using Louise Quinn and pushing her forward in that sense almost feels like it should be a last resort. But were you surprised to see Amber Barrett not?
I was very surprised, and all my friends, because all my friends are ex-international players, they were absolutely astounded, simply because she is such a goal orientated player, and she does have the physique to match their defenders. She's not easily pushed off the ball, and as well as that, she just has this drive, you know, to go and attack their, you know, back line, in terms of, you know, looking for really good opportunities to score a goal. So it was quite a surprise, you know. Now, I was happy to see Abby Larkin on, but I hope Abby will look back at it and see the things she should have done. I'm not criticising her in any way, but she looked a little bit lost as to where she should put the ball, or what she should do, and one of the crosses I thought was a little bit weak.
Well, it's incredible, like 18 years of age, and, you know, I was saying that she almost the whole way through the game was beaming, like she couldn't believe where she was. Even coming on, she was, like, you know, smiling as she was coming on, and which is so nice to see. But that'll stand to her, you know.
Absolutely, because if you look at the Aussies, I mean, Kerr was 15 when she debuted for the senior team, and most of the others on average were 17. So, and it's good because she was put in a position that she could sort of be protected. She wasn't a defender, and if things went wrong, you know, if her head goes down at such a young age, she mightn't have been able to recover. At the same time, she does have an immense amount of ability and she's lovely skill, and she looks the player.
Doesn't she? She's a proper little baller. Yeah. When we were talking just about Amber Barrett and not coming on, did you like to see Louise Quinn getting pushed forward? Do you think that's the right call?
Actually, Amber Barrett coming on, to me, we all expected her to come on because she always gives so much. She's very exciting. She'll run her butt off for the rest of the team. Yeah, I was a bit quite not disappointed, just an odd call, I thought.
Yeah.
One really positive thing, and I think to take from it, is that I guess a lot of people in advance were talking about the 80,000 seater stadium. Was the occasion going to be too big for some of these players? First World Cup game against the hosts and everything that came with it. And there was so much talk. Even Shabana Hearn was talking with us months ago about that moment when the national anthem was going to be played in front of such a big stadium. Like, the players dealt with the occasion remarkably well. I know that they didn't get the result, but it didn't feel like any of them were overawed.
See, they're sort of cocooned, I would imagine, and of course they have psychologists and whoever talking to them getting into their head, and they get very emotional, believe it or not, every time the national anthem is played. So yesterday was no different. So I would imagine, and it showed, it lifted them. So the occasion, they weren't overawed by the occasion because they battled to keep the Aussies out of the game, and actually quite disappointed in the Aussies. So when, an hour before kick-off, when the Sam Kerr news comes through, obviously from an Irish perspective we're all going, deadly. This is class. This is a relief, not having to deal with a player of that calibre. Is there a flip side to that whereby you've prepared for Sam Kerr for so long, you're thinking about Australia with Sam Kerr, and then all of a sudden she's taken out of the equation? Can it be off-putting? Could it be off-putting from an Irish perspective then to be like, okay, well, it's not the Australia we thought we were preparing for whatsoever? Like, is there any negative to be taken from a player of Sam Kerr's quality being taken out? If I'd flip that for you and say it more affected the Aussies than it did the Irish.
Yeah.
And again, she plays in England, so some of the girls know her style and know what to do. But I think the Aussies were more affected psychologically that she wasn't on the pitch.
Yeah, because other players had to step up.
I think going forward for them, they missed her. But when we were talking about the Aaron Naveen, what was it like for you watching? Like, obviously all these years that you spent, getting the girls to where they are, a lot of them, and to watch them go out in the World Cup, was it emotional?
Oh, absolutely. I was just saying to the guys that I nearly needed a nice bath because I played every position where every player was. And that's what happens. You're just so immersed in it. Aaron Naveen it's the same for the girls, same for everybody. Once it's aired, it's very emotional. We were very emotional.
It was an unbelievable occasion. We were chatting earlier as well. Tony Gustafsson, the Australian manager, had been talking the night before about targeting an area of Irish weakness, and he'd said he'd identified an area of Irish weakness. We figured that was Heather Payne's wing, where they kept targeting relentlessly in the first half, but dealt with it fairly well. Like, they were clearly trying very specific things, the Aussies, but it just wasn't working out.
It wasn't, because she was also getting support, so she wasn't isolated on her own out there, and she's great pace. That's one thing that's very noticeable about her. But as I go back to what I said originally, they abandoned going down the wings for straight balls down the middle, which I thought was really extraordinary. Because you've got Little John there, and then you have Louise Quinn. I just didn't know what they were trying to get out, that type of stuff. I didn't know whether they were testing. And then, of course, Brosnan isn't behind, and she's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Did you make of the Katie McCabe and Hayley Russo battle at many times? They were going at it.
It's a doddle for Katie. Absolute doddle. She had her in her. She really had her in her back pocket, and when you need to be aggressive, Katie can be very aggressive, but not in a way that you want to injure the bear. It's just her passion to win the ball, and we're all like that, and it was so vital yesterday because she set the tone, because if she can do it, everybody else should be able to do it. Having said that, Denise O'Sullivan was, for me, phenomenal. The ground she covered, the tackles she put in. I know at the end players were getting tired because you could see the first touch that wasn't as close as it should be. It was sort of running away from them a little bit. But if you measure that against the amount of work that they did, you could, and when you look at the final 20 minutes, and they sort of stepped up another gear. It was just great. I was very proud, really proud.
Really, really strong performance. The I guess these games are often decided on one little incident, one little moment, and the penalty incident, Linda, I mean, it was, I don't know, was a little bit naive from Marissa Shiva. Probably if she had the time back, obviously she wouldn't lay her hands.
You see, when you looked at her first, the angle we seen her first, she fell over. She looked as if, you know, the girl got tied in her feet, you know. But if you look at from the other angle, she had her hands on her before it happened, and then
they had no choice.
No choice. It looked bad.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
She didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
But it was a penalty.
It was a penalty. You couldn't, because they're giving penalties for everything now. You know, if the ball hits off you, it's a penalty. If your hand, it's a penalty. So that's absolutely obvious. It quite annoys me at times, because if you look at the men's game, I mean, she put her hands on the player. In the men's games, they wrap themselves around the players, and nothing is given. You know, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the decision making.
Yeah.
It was very tough for her, and she was in the dugout after, and you could see the tears streaming down her face, and God, you wouldn't like to be in that position, but hopefully she can, you know, take from it in a sense and move on, that these things are going to happen. It's football, mistakes are going to happen. It's just unfortunate for her it was her this time.
Our biggest learnings in life are our biggest mistakes. She will have learned from that. I mean, in our day, you used your body. You didn't sort of use your hands, but you used your body pretty well. Do you know what I'm saying? And this hand stuff, you can put your hands up, not like that, but like that.
Yes.
You know, there's ways around it, but it's just unfortunate. It just happened. I sort of wondered, because why was she in there anyway?
This is what we were just talking about.
Covering Katie McCabe is what some people were suggesting, that Katie was slightly out of position. She had to run back. I don't know is the answer, but it was just one of those things. Very often, if there's one criticism of the Irish team, it's that sometimes concentration for 90 minutes doesn't happen. They can switch off for a minute or two, and that's all it takes for a little moment like that. And in the World Cup game where you end up losing 1-0, that miniature lapse in concentration is all it takes sometimes.
That's it. Yeah, it's just one little mistake, one tiny mistake, that you are switched off, and that happens across football. It's not just for us, it's for everybody else.
The bench, albeit Amber Barrett didn't leave the bench, but even Lucy Quinn, I thought was good when she came on and added something different.
She did. I think we might have had an opportunity with her when she came on. When you weigh herself up with Larkin, she produced better stuff when she came on. It could be because she's a little bit more experienced, but you have to also add on that we were pushing them, we were pressurising them. We'd released players now, like Katie McCabe now wasn't at the back, she was pushing on, and other players were pushing on. I mean, we so bombarded them that when I was looking at their defenders, they were so happy just to kick the ball anywhere. Just clear it. Yeah.
Do you think that Vera might take anything from that last, say, 15, where they actually were attacking and, as you said, released players? They were allowed to go and on the front foot and play.
Well, I think the first call for Vera is, let's defend, and maybe we can get a goal on the break. But it's not my way of playing, like leaving a lone player up front. I mean, you'd have to be Pele or Maradona, you know, on your own up there to be able to take 3 or 4 players on. It's a very tough, lonely place to be, and it's when it changed. And I'm not sure if Vera's going to change again, because we have Canada now. Canada,
Olympic champions.
Olympic champions, you know. But they played Nigeria.
Threw Nigeria overnight, 0-0, which is a good result potentially for us.
Great,
you know. Just means get something out of the Canada game and then beat the Nigerians.
And I didn't see the game. I'm just wondering if the Nigerians were as physical.
From what I've heard, apparently so. Very, very physical at the back. Counter-attacking is very, very good as well. Obviously that game was in the middle of the night, so I didn't get to watch it myself, but by and large all the reports seem to be suggesting that Nigeria were probably good for a draw. Christine Sinclair obviously misses the penalty. Good save by the Nigerian keeper, but Yeah, Jesus, we'll take that sort of result all day long.
We will. It's great for
course.
us. Canada, I would say, would not be happy at all. Yeah, not be happy.
There's a theme in the YouTube comments, and it's similar to what we're chatting about here. Danny Mac1 says, Ireland are hard to break down, but by God, we won't be breaking anyone down either. Need to get McCabe up the field. And Richard Melia says, no expert, but should we not find a way to get McCabe further up the field and more involved? Her and Denise O'Sullivan are class. That is the solution here, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it was difficult for me to look at the line out and see McCabe so far back. She's very good. She'd play in any position for Vera, but it doesn't add to our attacking ability when we have to restrict her to where she is, to a defender. It doesn't add. Yet when she is released, the difference it makes, and it also encourages other players to push forward as well, because we'd quite an amount of players forward yesterday on the final push, 10-15 minutes. I was saying, God, if the Aussies launch a ball down, we're going to be caught.
Yeah, because Heather Payne was on that wing. She was bombing forward. Yeah, but she was really effective. But I know what you mean. You're like, I hope I don't get caught in behind now at the same time. Yeah. But no, I think Katie, when she's pushing forward, you really see her attributes. Like, she pushes.
Yeah, and when we are pushing forward, what's her name in the middle? Denise. She sees gaps and spaces, and she can release just the right ball if you have more than one player up front. Yeah,
well, that's the thing. On Ciara Carusa, her hold-up play often is very, very good. So much so that at times you saw Niamh Fahey and Megan Connolly advancing fairly high up because her hold-up play was brilliant. But it's, as we said this morning, it's tough work for Carusa because she's up there by herself.
Yeah, she's a lone player up there, and sometimes if we play an early ball, you can't get up there fast enough because the ball is travelling away from you and you're trying to catch up with the ball and support the player up front. It was quite tough for her yesterday.
You were watching the match in Dalymount?
Yeah, it was.
What
fantastic.
Was that like?
The atmosphere was fantastic. And the big screen with my buddies, it was great. Yeah, it was just great. On our tops and shouting and screaming and roaring, and the atmosphere was great. It was just great.
Did you ever foresee a day where this will be happening? Like, of course we foresaw it, and eventually down the line we wanted the Irish teams to start qualifying for major tournaments, but it's maybe happened, I want to say ahead of schedule, possibly, that we've got to this point now that there's no turning back. Like, you see that we mentioned earlier, the front page of The Guardian, all the papers with young kids watching the matches at some of these parties, and like the impact this is going to have, we probably won't realise or feel until the next generation of players comes along.
Well, it never would have happened if the Liberty 14 or 16 hadn't stood up. It would never have happened, because if you think about it, 2 years, and I'm sure they went down every possible avenue they could and had no just couldn't go anywhere. It was the final step. They had to stand up, and that was very important. But it took 40 years, 45 years, but it made a difference. FAI got behind them, and it just goes to show, if the resources are there, what you can do.
100%. And you even look at World Cups, say the World Cup after the next one, even in whatever 8 years time, like 10-year-olds there, like there's some girls in that look maybe 10 years old, and in 8 years time they'll be Abby Larkin's age, so like the next generation is going to be unbelievable. And even Abby Larkin,
that's what I was thinking.
She'll be 26 in 8 years time.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably in her prime.
But if you look at the Aussie team, I mean, they're not young. They were quite.
No, their bench.
But even the players on the pitch, like, really, and that's a good age for women. Like, it mightn't be for men, I'm not sure why, but for women, for some reason or other, 30s is great. Great time in life. You don't lose any energy, you actually get better. Be quite honest with you. The joy of all this and what the girls have done is all these academies that are coming up, the interest with the girls. I really would now like the FAI to get behind the type of futsal skill stuff at a very, very early age, because that's the type of skill we need to match the teams that we're playing against, because technically on paper, and even when you look at them, they are ahead of us and we need to catch up with them, and you can only do it from a small age, a young age, where you're developing those type of stuff.
Technically, isn't it? People were, even this week, we're talking about the Limerick hurlers ahead of the All-Ireland final this weekend, and they're maybe just technically slightly better with the smaller skills. It's probably the same with the Irish team. Like, if we can get to a level where the difference between Ireland and Australia probably is very, very small, but it's just the small technical things maybe that they do slightly better than us.
Yeah, across the pitch.
Yeah.
It's not just in by one or two players. It's across the pitch that they do it, and it is the thing that makes the difference between, a really top side.
Do you feel like there's enough buzz about Linda? Did you feel that yesterday?
There's enough buzz among us. I'm not sure it is, because people talked quite a lot about not having enough buntings up, and the media have done everything they possibly could. It's just I think people are looking for a visible show by Manon Heron.
Yeah.
To get out there and make sure that they're supporting the girls.
Yeah. Before we let you go, Linda, how do you see the group going now? Can we get a result against Canada?
I'm very positive now. Like the results yesterday with Nigeria and Canada, and the fact that it was just marginal between us and Australia.
Yeah.
So I'm very optimistic now. And I'm sure the Irish players are.
100%.
Yeah, that's the right way to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. No, we love to hear it. Love to hear it. Linda, thanks for popping in again.
Very welcome.
As per usual, Linda Gorman there, Irish legend, I think it's fair to say.